that was kind of something they kind of float by
Hold
me.
on.
Okay.
We're on. Um, Good evening. Welcome once again to our weekly podcast. I am G. Michael Reed, joined as usual by Mr. Gregory Merson and Mr. Joe Cowie. We will be here with you for about 2 hours, time approximate, and we'll try to cover a few of the issues that are pertinent to the times and that might indeed stir interest from you, the listeners. You're welcome to jump in at any time if you want to pass a comment. If you'd like to hit up on CY for an opportunity to come on camera, you may do so. But at the end of the day, we are going to do what we can to keep you abreast of current affairs. Gentlemen, I wanted to start off by offering condolences to my good friend Evandale Coburn, who on New Year's morning got a call that every parent dreads receiving, that his child had been killed in a traffic accident. Um, Melody Coburn is the only child of Juanita and Evandale Coburn. And it touched a lot of people because many people know him as a real quiet, unassuming fellow. Just go about his work doing community things and helping children. Every time he comes to Belize, he makes sure to bring a few balls and stuff for the park and stop by and give a pep talk to the children that are in the area. So we're going to miss him a lot. Um, Gentlemen, there's trouble again in the sugar industry. What is going on? What is it? Is it every year? Does it never end? What is the problem? Any of you guys have an idea what's going on over there and why they cannot reach some kind of settlement and agreement? Gregory, your mic is muted, sir.
Well, I don't know too much about exactly what's going on at this specific point, but I know we had touched on it like 6 months ago, where we talked briefly that there always going to be this sort of competition between the what we kind of say the employers and the employees, or the suppliers and the ones that are actually making the sugarcane production, well, the sugar production. And as it comes around to negotiating these contracts, it's a yearly thing. So it does create problem. I think one of the problem that exists is that the price of sugar has been going down somewhat, and they're trying to get a fairer deal from the suppliers, from the producers, to kind of balance some of the costs that they've been incurring locally. So I just wish them luck, and it kind of turned out a little unfortunate for the prime minister, because he had left the country and had to fly back to kind of cover things. But maybe Mr. Cowie has a little bit more detail on some of what's going on internally.
Well, I was one time involved on behalf of the government and incidentally also on behalf of the cane farmers for the very reason that there was a agreed method as to how both sides will be able to share in the profit. And I think it's important to know that the farmers are not really selling their cane as such outright to the millers. They do have a first payment that they get at the time of delivery, and then they will get a second payment when the crop is over. And then when the year is finished and the audit is done as agreed on the international standards. Then there is an agreement they had, which they were to arrive at the strip figure. That strip figure carried a definition where they would take now the profit that was measured under international standards, and they were to add back certain expenditures that both parties would have agreed to. And after that is added back, then they arrive at the figure, which is referred to as the net strip figure. And that is what will share on a ratio of 60 to 40. Now, that principle from my research I did today remains yes, the principle remains. What is the problem specifically, as I understand it, with some other ramifications, is that what they now call the commercial agreement, which is based on the same principles of the past, that the millers wanted a 4-year commercial agreement. The farmers, on the other hand, are insisting on 2 years. Then the millers agree to compromise and ask that they do it at 3 years. The farmers refuse to agree to the 2 years, that is to the 3 years, and is holding out for their 2 years. And that was what was the last I had on the news this evening, that they are still holding out. Now, within that commercial agreement, they do have some other differences. For example, question again of arriving at the figure that they had to share. And one of them came as a result of moving the sugar from the Belize port to the Blue Creek port, to the Big Creek port. And they are claiming, that is the farmers, that portion which were to be added back was not explained to them, because now there's a throughput cost for the port, seeing now that they are no longer loading it by barge to the ship as they used to. But instead, you have to go through the port, and there was an additional cost. So that too comes into play as an issue. But the number one issue is to get them to agree before they deliver. The millers were suggesting that let's just publish an agreement, just publish it, no signatures, just to begin to deliver. The millers, that is the Belief Cane Farmers Association, the other two have agreed that they will deliver on the basis of just the publication, and that sometime along the way after they will sign. The BFCA, which represents at least 50, if not more, percent of the cane being delivered, to be delivered, is holding out that they will not move unless there is a signature. So to me, that is the essence of the dispute. And of course, they also have some dispute over what they call the fair trade premiums. You know, where the European Union had agreed to make some contributions to sugar under a fair trade agreement within the union, just as they had it before under with the ACP countries, the African, Caribbean, and Pacific countries, under the Lome Convention, with sugar as it was then too.
Mm-hmm.
But now the issue is evidently about the fair trade agreement. They are saying that it is BSI that is to pay them, and they owe them for 2 years, and from their calculation, it's $2 million a year. BSI is saying no, it's not for them to make the premium payment. That is to be done by Tate and Lyle, because Tate and Lyle is the purchaser. So that is another point of disagreement. So those, to me, from what I gathered, is where the disagreements lie, mainly that commercial agreement.
It's funny that this has come up, though, just after sugar went missing from the shelves of the stores in Belize City. You know, we can't get no sugar at Belize. Certainly no brown sugar for a while. And then white sugar we couldn't get over the Christmas when people needed for make their cake and whatnot. Then this comes up. So I don't know who's going to get sympathy here from the Belizean people, because they're not providing our needs. What is the problem, and why every year consistently there is some problem in the cane industry? Why can't they come up with some kind of set principle, some agreement that will carry over? It was this the case when Tate and Lyle was running this business? Do you remember?
Yeah, they had their differences, and sometimes it maybe had gone on pretty long. But I agree with you that yes, you see, with the change, and I'm not here now to try to characterize ASR, but you know, ASR is the biggest miller in the world. They are the largest. And obviously, you know, they do not have as good a record in terms of their character, but I'm not prejudging them. I'm simply saying that, remember, When you have a multinational like ASR that is so large, I can understand why they may want to be adamant in what they say is their rights. And remember, we have to accept that in these market economies are where we're supposed to have them. When you have the workers, just like how we have now the suppliers, the cane farmers, who for them, the sacrifice is greater. There is no doubt. In all of these disputes, going back to even Tate and Lyle, when Tate and Lyle was not as big as ASR, the farmers, when they take their stand, don't too quickly underestimate them for what they are standing for. Because for the sacrifice farmers have to make when they take those stands, it must because they strongly believe in what they are doing. Because that's a sacrifice they are making, far more than ASR will have to make. ASR can go for a few months without doing any milling, and they can survive. The farmers would not be able to. But I am not saying this to try to abuse anyone's mind in favor of one to the other. But we have to understand too that our farmers, when they're standing up, try to understand why they are doing it. And don't take it that they are simply trying to be difficult and wanting to keep changing. But they too have their rights to let us agree to how we'll arrive at the figure that we will share. So I make those comments because we need to understand that they're up against one of the biggest grainer in the world. So I have to think about them too.
Yeah, I agree.
Listen, I just wish they'd get it settled and move forward, right? Nevertheless, folks, Happy New Year. We are joined this evening by two special guests. Of course, the wonderful Deidre Gillett, always welcome on our show, and Mr. Arden Edwards. Mr. Edwards, your mic is muted. Yeah, there you go. How are
Yeah,
you, sir? Everything
I'm
good?
doing pretty good tonight and pretty good, sir.
All right, wonderful. So, Mr. Carl Tyndale, is it? Tyndale? How do you pronounce that? I know they hear you. I see your lips moving. All right,
Evening,
try it
my
now.
name is
Yeah, yeah.
now.
Okay, I got
Yeah,
you.
yeah, my
But I
name is
got wind behind you. You
right.
gotta find the
Pronounced
blow.
as
You gotta find the blow by you there.
no. I'll check on it right now.
Okay,
Okay,
I think it's
There you,
I'll check
gone.
on it.
It's gone.
I think you got it now. You're good. You're good. You're good. You're good.
Okay,
Whatever it was,
okay.
you're all right now. Yeah, man. So all right. How are you, sir?
I'm
Um,
fine, sir. I'm fine. Thanks for
uh,
being on this platform. Thanks for the invite,
right.
and I look forward to make some contribution as well. No?
Okay. Tell us a bit about Carl Tyndall and how is it pronounced? Tyndall.
It's Tyndall. It's Tyndall.
Tyndall. Okay.
Correct.
All right. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, born and raised in the Toledo district, specifically the Dump Settlement, right?
okay.
Just outside of 14 and a half miles out of Punta Gorda town. East Indian by descent, a little mixture, East Indian and
Uh-huh.
Jamaican by descent, no? Yeah,
Okay.
and I believe I was brought onto the show because as a concerned citizen at the Maya claim, no? The Maya land tenure claim, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
basically
we look
that's it. Go ahead.
looking forward to your input. We are certainly we got enough to discuss, and we'll get to that. Mr.
Sure.
Edwards, sir, good evening. An introduction, if that could be in order. Arden, you hearing us? Hello, Arden. I hope you don't have your Arden. Deidre, your mic is off, Deidre.
Yeah, I'm coughing, so
I
forgive
know. Whenever you feel
me.
like it, cut it off. Don't worry about it. We understand. We know you're under the weather. It's unfortunate that that's the case. And into the new year too, girl. That certainly must have spoiled your holidays, right?
Yes, pleasant good night.
All right. Here comes Arden. Arden having difficulties of apparently he's going out. He was just coming in. When
Yeah.
it says we seem to accommodate this major. this major company into Little Belize to take advantage of us. I imagine you mean ASR. And of course, we now got Santander. And I remember a while ago, Carl, are you familiar any at all with the cane industry?
Well, just a very little. I'm
Do
not
they
too
grow
much.
cane? Do they grow cane down there in PG?
Well, way back in the years, I believe that was around 1940s, 1950s. That
Yeah.
yes, I think the cane industry actually started in the Toledo district, no?
That's
Uh,
correct.
and then and then later on moved over to the Orange Walk district. I think one of the main reasons for that is because the extent of rainfall that we get here, no?
Yeah.
So
Too
hence the
much?
reason why, yeah, the rainfall per year is too high, and
Mhm.
then it definitely affect the produce of the sugar, right?
Okay.
Okay.
It takes a lot more cane to produce a small amount of sugar, no?
I remember somewhere hearing that it was the Confederates that came in and brought and started the sugar industry, and there
Yeah,
was a mill down there. I think there's still the relic of an old mill, no?
yeah. There's still the relic of an old mill. Yeah, yeah. It was the Confederates that came here, but I think back in the early 1900s or late 1800s, and started off with the cane industry, no? They
Interesting.
did at the time have several small cane mills around. I think the Youngs had one, right? And different other East Indian who probably had worked with them as well,
What
right?
role did the Mayans play in that back then? Do you know? Were they around then? Were they uh,
I don't
laying
I
any
don't believe
claims?
I don't believe that they were around at that time, right? It was basically the I think mostly the East Indians that would have been working in the sugar industry at that time, no?
Yeah.
When they migrated to Belize, right, through Jamaica and Guyana. And so I don't believe that the Mayans were directly engaged in the cane industry. From what I understand, that they were more engaged in the cacao, and they were working with the Creamers estate back in Dolores area, no?
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. At this point, how is the dump area affected by the claim that the Mayans have put forward? Are you guys in a part of the area that's being claimed?
Well,
Uh,
the dump area is directly affected by the claim, and why I say that is because um, we are considered to be a part of the Big Falls village, and by that virtue, we are directly affected because Big Falls is one of the community that is in that claim, no? So
are the, go ahead.
even
Go-
though we might see ourselves as independent from Big Fall, um, we still fall officially. We still fall under the Big Falls community at this time. So
Are the
we
Mayan?
therefore
Go, yeah.
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Are
Yeah,
they
we
asking?
therefore are directly affected by the claim, right?
Yeah. Are
Because
they asking the residents of that area to vacate, to move out? What are they? What's the course of action that they're taking there?
well, at this point in time, I think well, obviously they are not asking anyone to move out at this point in time. No, however, I believe that a lot of people don't really understand the gravity of this claim, right? And I mean, the little that is being shared with them is not sufficient enough, right? So a lot of people are concerned, but they don't really understand the gravity
Yeah.
of the claim, right?
Are there any aspects of this that you could hip us to? Can you give us a little clue as to what are some of these things that you figure the public has not understood or that has not been made clear from the conversations that have been had?
I think, well, first of all, there is a little or no representation by third party, right? Whenever they have these
Mhm.
hearings, and then likewise, there are no kind of sensitization at the affected area. right? I believe the MLA is doing their part to try and bring their people to the fore, no? However, the others who are not part of the areas that are being claimed are not really familiar with the issue at this point in time, right? I mean, they're basically just listening to the noise in the market, right?
Are they even interested?
They are interested. They are interested, but what happens is that most don't understand. Most don't understand what is actually taking place, right? Yes, they are interested. They come to meetings. Well, they had one meeting in the area where I lived, and they did show up, and they were concerned about about the claim. However, at the meeting, it was basically the People's Constitution Reform, um, what
Commission.
sensitization, right? Consultation, and they went to hear to see what they could have get out of the meeting as it relates to the claim. However, nothing was said, right? Nothing was said to them. I mean, nothing much was said, and therefore, they just left again, concerned, but they are not getting the type of information that I believe they want, right?
Are they that they need, you believe, to get a full understanding of what is going on, huh? If
Exactly.
you
They need to get a full understanding. Yes, they are concerned. I mean, every time you go out there and you're listening to them talking and things. Yes, they are concerned, but they don't really understand, so to speak. They don't really understand because I mean, a lot of these people, especially the elders, they haven't been to school. They haven't went to school, right? And therefore we have a issue there. I mean, and whenever we have these type of consultation, I mean the language used, you know, is a bit too
highfalutin.
highfalutin, right?
Yeah,
Too
yeah,
highfalutin, and
yeah.
so I think what needs to be done is more consultation and get them educated as it relates to the issue at hand, no?
Yeah, interesting. I see Mr. Edwards is back, sir. You seem to be having some technical difficulties there. Are you with us now, Arden? All right. You're muted instead of turning it off. On actually, um, you're still mute. Carl, if you could put this thing in a nutshell for us, where does it stand now, and where do you see it headed in the future?
Well, in a nutshell, I mean, like I said before, everyone is concerned. Everyone is interested to hear more about what is, the direction that we are going. But I mean, the different groups, right? The various groups that we might have around who are trying to get started, are having some setback at this time. I mean, I think one of the main thing that is affecting us as Belizean Creole, it's hard for us to get united, and that is something that is definitely affecting us now, right? So
Yeah.
I
Well,
think as the time is, as since we are having more and more hearings and stuff, people are more getting into it now. Some of them who are privy to technology and stuff like that, are trying to get themselves educated and try to understand. Because prior to this, I was not even concerned about it because I think this was just a talk, right? However, when the Emery Grove committee reached out to me and asked me to come on board, then I realized, and when I started to do my little research, then I realized that, I mean, man, this thing is more than I have thought of, right?
are you involved in local government in any form down there?
Uh, no,
Chairman?
I'm not. No, I'm not directly involved in local government. I'm just what happened is because we are trying, as the Dom settlement is trying to be independent of the Big Falls community, right? So I am there trying to assist them and trying to, guide them through the process and stuff like that, so as to see how we can be registered as a community, right?
Somebody
We
somebody was
recently
asking.
passed the
Go,
thresh- we
uh-huh.
recently passed the threshold, right? Last census it was roughly 196 inhabitants in the Toledo in the dump area. Now we are roughly around 250, and if you look at the Village Council Act, it is saying um, for you to constitute a village, it has to be roughly 200 and more inhabitants in the settlement, no?
Yeah, somebody was asking if the chairman of the Big Falls community had an opinion on this and what was his stand on
Well,
it.
Well, the previous chairman did have a stand on this, and I think he made his stand known to the general public, right? That was, I think, the fellow Mr. Choco some years ago, but he's no longer the chairman, no. But he did stand up and went around the community getting some signatures to say that they are against the Maya land claim, no.
Tell me, all right, when they're saying every major issue goes awry because of poor communication, is there adequate communication, you think, between those leaders down there and the general populace?
I
Obviously the Mayans are communicating with themselves. Are the other
Correct.
villagers down there getting involved in the conversation?
I believe that they are not getting involved in the conversation basically because they don't really understand, right? They don't really understand, and I believe that if we want to do any type of sensitization, we need to come to the communities, each and every communities that are concerned and want to have a voice in this issue, and try to educate them in the most simplest form so that they can easily understand and make some rightful decisions.
The problem is, though, Carl, that to be truthful, many of us don't really understand. Many of us outside of the
Exactly.
communities don't. It's unfortunate if you're telling me that even those right there who will be affected. Where do
Right.
you see it going? What's the biggest danger here? Are they going to be pushed off their land?
Well, we are hoping that that don't happen, right?
Uh,
And based on the little information that I went through, the little research that I did, and the Constitution, then I am trying to feel comfortable with our Constitution at this point in time. However, that can be changed as well, right? So at this point in time, and based on the consent order, from what I understand, that no third parties or title holders will be affected, right? And if you look at the dump settlement came around the 1920s, the late 1920s, right? And it was first established by the East Indians, right? Because back then, we used to, well, the elders used to refer to it as farmers' grave. That was where the rice farmers used to bring their rice to trash, right? So people back then, we had most of the rice fields in the lower part of the dump area, and then you have a few little small rice farmers in established villages like the San Antonio, the San Pedro, Colombia, that used to come to the junction of the PG San Antonio Road, um, and the Southern Highway to come and trash their rice and use the drying floors, because back then we didn't used to have dryers, right? So if your rice had moisture and stuff, we had access to two large drying floors where we would just spread our rice for the day and try to bring down the moisture content in those rice, no?
is your family in the rice farming business?
Well, we no longer in the rice business. Why? Because what happened is that we used to have issues when it comes to harvesting, right? And at times you would, because the rice business, I mean, rice production is very um, what
Tedious.
fragile, so to speak.
Okay.
If you don't harvest it within a certain time frame, then the rice becomes fluxy. Then you don't get your best price, right? And
Yeah.
back then, the farmers couldn't, the farmers could not afford a harvester. The farmers could not afford um, what tractors to cultivate, to till their soil and stuff. So we used to rely on the agriculture department, right? And then eventually that became an issue where sometimes, the combine would just pass our area and go farther, right? And get and other farmers would get their produce harvested, right? So that was what basically killed the rice industry back then, no? At this point in
Yeah.
time, it is slowly trying to revive,
Lisa, well,
right?
whatever. Lisa, you have to come on board and let us understand what you're saying. She doesn't think that's the case. I'm not sure what she's talking about. Tell me something. You said that the dump area, you guys have been there since the 1940s or before. Obviously, there's not been a lot of reproducing there of human beings.
Well, what happened is
You're
that
up to
most
200.
most of these properties, yeah, most of these properties were large properties, right?
Uh-huh.
50, 30 acres, 50 acres, 100 acres, and stuff, no? So, back then it was just basically a handful of East Indians who had occupied the area, right? When the settlement was established, and then farther down the road, I think around the 1950s and so, that was when we started to become more diversified in terms of ethnic groups, no?
Yeah. Somebody was just asking if you are aware of any communication between the government and the residents of Big Falls. Is Big Falls a problem in this? Has Big Falls been sitting on the fence or on the other side of the issues, as far as you know?
Well, the little I know of what Big Fall is doing is that they are trying to sensitize the village, right?
Okay.
So they have some of their locals that are trying to go around, have small little meetings, because what happened is if you know Big Falls village, um, Big Falls also have the Hikiti settlement, which borders the center of Big Falls on the north, and then the Dump settlement, which borders the southern part of Big Falls. So, it has like two small settlements on its sides, no? And well, from what I'm seeing, that the inhabitants of Big Falls, they're against the Maya land claim, because 90 to 95% of them owns their property, owns their land.
Mr. Tyndall, to interrupt, who is in Big Falls? Is it mostly a Maya population?
Well, Big Falls is very diversified,
Mhm.
very, very diversified. Big Falls was established by Spanish individuals, Hispanic individuals, and then later on you have the Maya and the the Quechinians who started to come in, right? And then you also have Creoles. You also have a few Caucasians, right? And so, and East Indian as well. So Big Fall is a community that is very diversified when it comes to ethnic group, no?
What percentage would you say are Maya Indians of that village?
I would say the larger portion now are Maya Indians, and that would
75% maybe?
probably that would probably be about between 65 to 75%,
Okay.
right?
And
Yeah.
but are they for or against this land
Hi,
settlement
good
deal?
night, guys. I think I
You
might.
you worked out the kinks. You we're hearing you well now.
Yes.
Are you there? Arden, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah,
you want to get in the conversation? You
yeah.
got a few
I'm in
things you want to
rural, the
offer?
way rural. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, man. Please. Go ahead, Strong.
Go ahead.
You were saying the rural.
Yes, I want to say that I'm very happy to be on the show tonight. I want to say that I was born and grew up in Emery Grove Village, about 10 miles out of PG Town. And I want to say that us in Toledo, we predominantly we have it's a mixture of all ethnic groups you could find in Toledo district. But of recent, I want to say that we have been having some problems with what we call the communal land rights that are several of our communities has been infringed on, and they have demarcated part of our village land. Certain of these Maya communities are now claiming it and then infringing on our rights. So that is one of the major problems affecting us in Toledo.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Lisa said she was responding when she said that is not so. Ms. Nunes' question of notions. There's no notion that villagers think that Maya communal land wants more land. The truth is that the request is to have larger land areas. And maybe this would be a question for either Carl or the other gentleman there. Are the Mayans getting more aggressive in their claims towards land? Are they pushing more for more land?
Well,
I would
from my
I would
part,
say
what I'm seeing is that, you see, what happened is that Big Falls is more closer to Punta Gorda town, and like I said, most of the lands in Big Falls are properties, right? So there are no room for expansion, and then they are bordered by large property owners, right? That probably might have 1,000 acre, 2,000 acre, right? About two or three property owners. So there are no room for expansion, right? So they are not being aggressive in our area. However, when you go more farther rural, right? Then I think that is where the problem lies. No, they're trying to expand and claim more of the areas surrounding the communities that they live in. No.
Yeah. Arden, you
I
had
have
something to
a
say?
yes, I have a little somewhat a view on it. I believe that we have a lot of the Mayan communities, for example, Colombia, Silver Creek, San Miguel, San Marcos, San Antonio, what we call original Mayans, Pueblo Viejo, Blue Creek, that don't necessarily believe in communal land because they understand what is going to happen, that each of these land will be owned by the community. Or what is happening is that most of the border communities, some of these communities along the border in Toledo are the one who is more aggressively fighting for communal land
When you
because
say
most of
border, you're
them,
talking the border along with Guatemala,
they
or
along with the Guatemala border, is
okay.
because they see it as an opportunity that they could come into Belize and own land without even have to go through the tedious process that normal Belizean would do. And so these are the people who are more aggressively fighting for communal land because where their father or grandfather came from, they never did had an opportunity to own a piece of land. Now they could come across Belize, and these people who live right on the border now can now go and do their slash and burn system and get as much land as they see fit. So these are the people who are more aggressively fighting for communal land.
Carl, do you believe in that? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, that is basically what I'm saying. No, the more rural areas closer to the borders, because those are areas that you have that are not still yet occupied. But when it comes to the villages along the highway, most of those areas, they don't really have much room for expansion because people already own properties in those villages, right? I'm speaking specifically to the Big Falls area, the dump settlement, right? Further up to Hickory, right? Silver Creek, San Miguel, San Pedro, Colombia, right? There are basically no room for expansion in those areas. I mean, San Pedro, Colombia is bordered by the Columbia Forest Reserve. That is the only
But
way that they can,
is
in that
Emery
area that they
Grove
can.
is Emery Grove along the border area? Because I know that has been some claim and some concerns about the people in the village of Emery Grove, that some Maya village was encroaching on their what they had traditionally known as their boundaries. So is that part of along the border
I
area?
would I could say that Emery Grove is definitely far away from the Guatemala border. We are only 10 miles out of PG Town. The situation with Emery Grove and Mofferdai, I have to also mention Mofferdai as well, is that we are our neighbors are Mayan communities. And that's where the problem comes in because of the process of this, how this communal land rights lands operate, is that when they
So
took
what
the
I'm
government
getting
to
at, the
court
point
and
I'm
they had
getting
a
at is
settlement.
not. So what I was getting at was the claim and the issue is not only along the border. It impacts some of the interior areas of the country
ex-
also, not just the border
Exactly,
areas are impacted. Okay, okay. Go ahead, please.
exactly. And I was going to elaborate a little bit more on it. Is that the mechanism set up in place is that they have about three mechanisms set up in places where we have the first process is called the delimitation. And this is whereby the government conceded to give the indigenous Maya people of Toledo. I have to make sure that I say the word indigenous because I've gotten myself into trouble. I've grown up knowing the word as Mayan Indians, but now the correct term, and I want to be correct for the public, the indigenous Mayas. Um,
I
they
think
are
though
now
that in saying that though, basically you're also suggesting that these are the ones that are indigenous to Belize, as opposed to just indigenous to the whole area. Is that correct?
right,
Uh,
indigenous Mayas of Belize.
I
I
see.
want to
Yeah.
say, right. I want to say that the process that the government conceded to was to allow them to go ahead and deal what we call the delimitation process, whereby they allow the MLA to go and mark out all the different parts of Toledo that they consider that they want to have as their communal land. And they forgot a process called verification because you must have delimitation and then you must have verification by the government. And that step was left out. And that's where the government had failed to do the verification part, is that now they marked it out. And while they were doing the delimitation part, they didn't consult the non-Mayan communities, or they didn't have anybody from the lands department to go along with them in the process of delimitation. It's like giving a guy a cake, and then you give him a knife to slice the cake, and then you have nobody to control that person. Well, there is a family of 12 here, you need to take a lesser slice. And the government dropped the ball on that process. And that's the reason why these guys went ahead and sliced piece of Emery Grove for it. And they're claiming Laguna is claiming a piece, San Marcos is claiming a piece, and that's the same process that happened to Mofradai. That Mofradai is surrounded by 4 or 5 other Maya communities. And when these people went to mark the boundaries in Mofradai, they actually took all of Mofradai land and told Mofradai that they could now become part of the communal land system process, which is very unfair for us. It likewise similar to Jacinto Village. San Felipe went in and cut off a piece of Jacinto, and they're now claiming it. And this is all because the government failed to carry out a proper delimitation process, and
That's
they
right.
didn't have anyone to have a verification process in place. So this is where we have to really look at where the nitty-gritty of this problem originated from and what is happening now.
Or then,
I
do you
fully,
think that maybe you guys, oh, sorry, Joe, you think you guys
yeah,
maybe stood up a little too late, took a little too long to stand up and make your voices heard? Because it seems the Mayans have been pushing, and you guys are only now starting to push back.
Well, we were not too late, and
no,
we were never late
that's right.
because we all knew where Mofradai boundaries were. We all knew where Emery Grove boundaries were. So we didn't believe that these people would come and interfere with our boundaries. Because I
Uh,
would say if certain Mayan communities want communal land, it's up to them. We're not here to fight against them. That's their prerogative. What
but
we're here to do is to protect Emery Grove, Mofradai, Dump, and these places. So we didn't know that the government would have allowed these people to come and cut the cake without having a representative from the lands department or having us on board to talk and to dialogue and to say from the get-go, this is where our village starts and ends. That whole complete process was missed out, and there was never a verification process in play. So
I
even the government failed to carry out that important part called the verification part. And
so
then I could further go a little bit down the road more to talk about the demarcation and the
right.
final giving of title, but I won't get there right now. We have to look at these two main issues right now.
But Mr. Chairman, I think from what I understand, because you pointed out two important things: the issue of the demarcation, and the other
Delimitation.
point, and the delimitation, is that that has not yet been formalized. So it's not too late. As someone referred to it, it seems that it is becoming like indigenous colonialism, the way it is being appearing to us, to people out there, because the formalization of the delimitation and demarcation has not yet been finalized. So this is the time to fight back. You have to fight back against what is indigenous colonialism.
And you're 100%, Mr. Joe. You're so 100% correct. Because we believe now this is the time now
That's
where the
right.
government must come and listen to us and said, for this process to work, we have to all realize that we all, as Belizean, under our constitution, we have rights,
That's
and
right.
we cannot infringe on somebody else's rights and give it to somebody else and believe that that is okay. So under our constitution, because we have rights, the government needs to come in and to be clean with us. I'm not saying that they haven't tried. They have tried more than so for the past 10 or 12 years. They have been trying, but we need some teeth. It's not just the motion to feel us happy. We need to see the verification process set in place when these indigenous Mayas come and mark and say 70 or 80% of Toledo belongs to them. We need the verification process in place to tell them, hey, no, this is not so. Each of these
They,
villages have what we call traditional boundaries. And Joe and the rest of the hosts, we all have to realize that someday down the road and every day, we all have kids burning. Our population is getting bigger in these East Indian and community village. Where are we going to put our kids and future grandkids to live? One person cannot own 80% of the cake. Everybody needs a slice of the cake. Even even the forestry reserve, even these natural parks or national parks, they're claiming. I want to say that is very unfair. Even if you look, we have miles and miles and miles. I was doing some work this week across the Toledo district, and I clocked it in on the truck. You'd basically drive 10 to 15 miles to meet another village, and there's absolutely nobody in between. How can a group of people be so selfish and greedy That is
Well,
my take on it. We have to see all ourselves as Belizeans. Most of us forgot about the Battle of St. George's Key on the 10th of September. If we didn't fight for this country, for us to win the Spaniards, we did fight, we drove them back, and this became a haven for a lot of people who was running from civil war.
Yes.
We welcomed them with
yeah.
open hands,
I,
and now they're chasing us out of our own communities.
well, what I think you need to do, Mr. Chairman, if you allow me to come in back, if you look at the consent order, you look at what the court said, the Caribbean Court of Justice, that in no way is the government's authority compromised or impaired by virtue.
Can you repeat that again so the whole nation could hear?
Of that constitution, of the consent order. And he said that the government retains its authority by virtue of its constitutional rights under the Constitution. The important point to be remembered is that there is property rights under the Constitution. So there are some pundits, some legal luminaries are beginning to believe that that order is like trying to walk between the raindrops without getting wet. That order is for you all to continue to emphasize, dramatize, become very hype about your rights. You got to stand up for your rights. You're not standing against the court decision. But if you do not stand up, then the court decision will be carried out by a government, whichever one it is, and I'm talking about government in a generic sense, that they want the order to be carried out. But if they don't get resistance, they will not understand the problem. So you all who are feeling it knows it. And I will say to you, you need to stand up now and stand strong. Let your voices be heard, because it will be very difficult to carry out the court order by the letter of the order. So there will have to be some compromise. It's impossible to really carry out that consent order literally. It just cannot. But if you remain silent, if you are not adamant, very, I don't want to say military in a sense, but you have to be very passionate about it and stand up. Because it's when you stand up and bring your rights to the nation will stand behind you. And they will not be standing against the consent order. They are saying we have to compromise. And that's what will have to be done. You can never carry out that consent order literally. Otherwise, people will be, not of Belizeans, will be deprived of their constitutional rights, and you cannot do that. So I'm giving you credit for the way you gentlemen, the two of you who have spoken so far, to stand up.
The case is based upon customary land use. And when we think of that, every Belizean has that right. We bury our forefathers in the land. Our ancestors are buried there. We use the land. We work the land. We profit off the land. That's customary use. So how did that get favored to one specific group? And I'm not putting this group down either, but we need to see ourselves as Belizeans. And that's where I just can't wrap my brain around that, because if we're favoring a group of people, that's not Belizean.
I have a question though. Is this order that was given, this consent order by the court, open to interpretation, or is it strict to the letter of the law? Because apparently it seems like if there's some wiggle room here as to how it should be applied or can be applied.
I believe you're right, because the way the court ruled it and the way the agreement was with the consent order, it's left for the government and the Mayan, and the government on the behalf of the rest of the people of Belize and the Mayan, to work out what area was to be delimitation for the boundaries for the Mayan communion land claim. And I think the mistake may have been the government laziness in not participating.
That's what I was saying, Mr. Morris.
Sorry,
They
Mr.
dropped the
Secretary.
ball.
The government
Can I
dropped the
comment
ball
on,
and
can I
relied.
comment on that suggestion, please? If I were you, I think Mr. Gregory is making a good point, but I see a weakness in it. Don't see the government representing the other people. In other words, like it's the Mayans and the government. No, it's the Mayans and the other people, and the government must be the referee.
That's correct.
So don't
That's
depend
correct.
on the government
That's
to
correct.
defend the rights of the other people. You look out for your rights. The Mayans look out for their rights under a court order. But you too have rights under a consent order.
Yes, and that
So
was
you
going to be
must
my
now be
point.
seen as a group not fighting against, but fighting for your rights.
For to
while
participate.
they are fighting for theirs.
Yes.
And then the government will be the referee because they have authority under the Constitution, and the consent order said that.
Yes.
But don't sit back and say that the government will look after your rights. And they have
I think that's quite clear from I think that's quite clear. I think that's quite clear from seeing
what a lot of Belizeans are not aware of, and people in the diaspora, is that Belizeans are now being referred to as third parties in this claim. And
exactly.
Just let that marinate on your brains.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of disagree with you because
well, that's how it is. If you listen to the CCJ ruling, to the CCJ discussion, whenever they refer to the people that were not the Mayans and not the government, they were referred to as third parties. So that is quite clear. And I think that's where, and we saw the weakness of that in what Mr. Marshallek was presenting to the CCJ in his last presentation sometime in November or late December or early December, where he was not giving the proper representation to address the concerns of the non-Mayan villages. And so that's where Mr. Edwards and Mr. Tyndall needs to come in, and the other villages, and probably some of the other Mayan community and people that are not so in agreement with Maya land rights claim, because that will give them the power so that the government will realize that they just can't look at this as a political solution for their problem, because that's how I believe they're looking at it. This will get us vote. This is votes for us if we do it this way. They need to look at it sort of holistically for all the citizens and all the people of that district and for the people of the country of Belize, because it undoubtedly will affect the entire country of Belize, this decision that they make today.
As Lisa,
sorry, can I inject something here for the lady?
Go ahead.
I do respect what you said just now about we are being perceived as third class. I would ask you never to repeat it. The reason why I'm saying it, because the way I'm saying it, we must not be saying that, because we are not. And we must to take a page from the Bob Marley encouragement that we must free our mind. We must stand up for our rights. And don't even say that we are being perceived. Who said we are being perceived? That's what they want us to believe. But we are not.
Yeah, I agree with you.
These two gentlemen on this show that are fighting down there. Mr. Tyndall, I lived in your district. I lived in your district for 2.5 years because I was somewhat in charge of that district in the 60s. So I knew the past. When you were talking about the sugar cane, I knew the history, how it moved from the south to the north. I knew the Youngs and I knew the Gomez's. PG was producing the best rum in the country because they were making it from the best sugar cane the country had. They were doing the best. They were making the best. PG was the bread basket when it comes to the staples of the country. They were producing the rice and they were producing the beans.
And what went wrong? Whose fault was it?
What I think went wrong, and please don't misunderstand me here. I think we have partly the voters of a country has to take blame when the promises that were made were not carried out. Let me tell you why. I knew how the Moffatt Cooperative started. I was there. It was believed that only the people, and I'm not here discriminating against the Mayans, that they were only the people who could be farmers, and that the Garifuna could not be farmers. But under the Moffatt project, we made, when Big Fall fell short on rice, the rice deficit was made up by Toledo, and it was made up by the Moffatt Cooperative, which was then being financed with funding, because the funding used to be in the office where I was. I mean, for the food. They used to provide the food. They used to provide equipment to help the farmers. So they were, in fact, making great progress. And the Mayans were no longer the only ones that were providing those things. So the other people, and I know what the East Indians used to do. I know all the Williams and all of you, all the James and whatnot. You were a little boy then, I suppose. Sorry to say that to you, but I know you are a wise man now. But I'm
So,
saying that because
Joe, so it wasn't the government who dropped the ball. You're saying it's the people who did. Because
I would say that the people have some blame to take, while I will not take the blame off the government either. And the reason why I'm saying this, it happened that there was a period in the south, in the Toledo, where it used to be called Vernonville, the town, because it was run and controlled by the Vernons. And they were controlling the politics. So they were my friends, no doubt. But whenever you see a particular group have vested interest out of their self-interest, there is trouble. And then when they begin to get certain powers, and they don't allow the powers, the benefit of the powers to pass on, the truth about it, it has been proven that Toledo is one of the most resourceful parts of this country.
Yes, it is.
It is.
It is.
So Toledo is a very wealthy country. That's where we have a lot of. We could have found. We've had dolomite down there. We could have made cement in Toledo. Toledo have natural resources far more than any other part of this country. It's unfortunate that it was seen to be beyond the pale of civilization. Transportation was poor. It took us days to get there, either by boat, and if we tried by road, many nights we have to sleep by rivers before the river go down. So I would say we are not third-class citizens. Sorry to contradict.
No.
We were there a long time too, and stand up for those rights.
I agree. Thank you for that.
Mr. Tyndale, where do you see this going? And how long will it take for us to get somewhere with this? Because right now it seems we're in a little state of limbo, waiting to see what's going to happen next. What do you see happening here? What are you hoping for?
Well, I'm hoping that the third parties can unite and come together and make a strong stand. Right? I believe that at this point in time, the third parties are not being represented on the hearing, and I think that is important because it is the attorney from the government side who is trying to represent the third party on this issue, and I think that needs to change because the third parties doesn't have a voice, right? Doesn't have a voice, and
when you speak of third parties, you're meaning the other people, not the government, not the Mayan. But these very third parties that Joe was suggesting, maybe you shouldn't call third parties, correct?
Right. I'm talking about
right now they're referred to as third party within the litigation process. So
within the litigation process, they're referred to as third parties. Right. So yes, we don't have representation, right? And we were taking it for granted, right? And just recently now, when the guys from Emory Grove, who started to stand up because they were having intrusion into what they refer to as their traditional area, right? That was when others started to get concerned, and others start to seek information on the particular issue, right? So I believe that we need to have some sort of representation, right? Because as is right now, the Mayas, the indigenous people are being represented on the claim, right? The government has its attorney on the claim, its group alliance on the claim. What does the property owners who are going to be affected in this area? They don't have any representation on the claim.
Let us talk about the fourth party and all of that. The rest of us who are just trying to understand what is going on there. What is it that we should know? What do you think we should know about what is going on? What kind of dangers do you see presenting itself? What's the best course forward?
First of all, I don't understand how you can have a country within a country, right? I mean,
balkanization.
Go ahead.
Balkanization, yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
balkanization.
Right.
Correct. Well, while I understand that something like this could work in probably Brazil and in those other large countries, something like this cannot work here. Something like this cannot work here because a lot of these lands are already entitled, right? Already entitled. Now, when you go farther remote, farther rural, then that is where this probably can work. But right now, I mean, if you listen to the hearing, right? When one of the judge on the hearing said, we are looking at what 100 parcels or 100 property owners that are going to be affected. What did our attorney said? No, it's roughly about 8,000, right? So they have a different impression, right? They don't understand the situation, and I think they who are involved in this issue needs to come on the ground and see what is actually taking place. I mean,
very good point.
The consent order is saying that where there are properties, we cannot, that would have to remain property, and then where there are lease, right, or where there are crown land or so, then that probably can be part of the claim, right? But most of these areas, Big Falls, like I said, San Pedro, Colombia, most of these people have titles to these things, right? And so obviously this claim cannot, this cannot work. This type of thing that the MLA is fighting for.
I think though the judges, when they did talk about lease, they were talking about lease that would have been issued after the claim was filed. They were not talking about leases that were long ago drawn up and people had use of those lands. I think they had made some distinction or some qualification to that when they were speaking of leases.
Well, let us look at the dump settlement. Most of these, the dump settlement is considered roughly between 2,500 to 3,000 acres, right? 98% of this area here within the dump settlement, they were owned from way back, from the early 1930s, 1940s, right? People had title to their properties, right? So these were properties from way back. Right.
I'm curious, how did the dump area get its name, and what are the significance between, are you guys going to keep that name, or do you plan on changing that at some point?
It was from the rice dump, right?
The hope is that as soon as we can go through the process of being identified as our own village, then obviously that name is going to be, well, I'm hoping that the community members would want to change the name, but for right now, we all go by the name of Dump, and we are proud. We are proud to be inhabitants.
I hear you. What the dump is what from? Gregory was suggesting it came from the dumping of the trash from the rice. Is that it?
No. What happened is that if you are familiar with the area, just below the junction where the San Antonio Road, the PG San Antonio Road meet the Southern Highway, below that area is a swampland, right?
Oh,
So when they were constructing the San Antonio Road, what they had to do was to dump up that probably about a mile and a half of that swampland, so that they could have passed the road through that area. And
oh,
that
so they
from
built it
since
then.
then, yeah. So from since then, we refer to it as the dump, right? But
Interesting.
it's not a sanitary fill or anything like that. It's just
Okay.
where they try to build over the swamp to get across the swamp.
And it's
Okay.
no
Can I
racetrack.
elaborate? Sorry, can I comment on a point you made, which I think is very, very important that you made just now, Mr. Tyndall?
Sure.
According to the United Nations record, it's just about little over 3% of the world population is indigenous. Just about 3%. It's about 300 million, little over 300 million. No. What has been said about the consent order in the case of Belize, that will make it very, very difficult. Why they are saying it's like walking between the raindrops without getting wet. Because you mentioned the point, the disproportionate share of the amount of Mayans to the land is very high compared to if it was in Brazil. Belize doesn't have that amount of land to
No.
be able to. That's right. If you look at the push, you have to look at the ratios of population to land. So that point you
Right.
made is a very valid point, and that's why they are saying that the
And
consent order,
that is why I'm saying that this cannot apply. This
it
approach
will be
cannot apply
difficult to
here in
apply.
our
Very
country.
difficult.
Yeah, it's very difficult to apply.
Very difficult.
So I am kind of comforted by the Constitution. However, I mean, things can happen, and the Constitution can be changed, right? And then that is where I think most of us will become very, very concerned, because as is right now, it's difficult under the Constitution. Right?
I would think that as the other members of the society, the community generally, you are, I must say, not seeing the Mayan as an opponent, but simply look at the consent order. The consent order was a legal, theoretical order, in a sense. In theory and law, it makes sense. But it's the practical application of it that you find as unique.
Why does it make sense?
Unique in the
Why
world
does it
because
make
of the
sense?
situation in Belize.
Why do you
So
think
what
it
will
makes
happen?
sense? Why do
What
you
will
think it
happen?
makes sense?
Yeah. What
Why
will
do you
happen?
think it makes sense? Why? Why does it make sense? You said the consent order makes sense. Why do you think it makes
I'm
sense?
saying
What
that
about
the
it makes
consent
sense?
order, the consent order in theory, in the theory of the law, would seem to make sense because
Why,
it is
go ahead.
universally accepted under the Human Rights Convention, which we adhere to. But in the application, Belize happen to be in a unique situation because of the ratio of the population to the land. So, the more those who are feeling disfavored in the application of the consent, the more there will be the need to look for compromise. And the compromise can very well come where you have a good, I don't know the percentage yet. Nobody has been able to tell me. But what percentage of the Mayans are not in support of communal land? Because you do have a good amount of them that are not. So
Well,
the
from listening to the noise out there, majority, especially the larger communities, San Antonio, San Pedro, Colombia, probably even Pueblo Viejo to a certain extent, majority is against the claim because all of them already have properties to their land, right?
That's right.
Now, like I said, while this could be applicable in Brazil, for example, Brazil has a huge landmass, a very huge landmass. And then these indigenous people that lives in Brazil, they don't live close to civilization. So it's very easy for you to go and demarcate an area and say, all right, customary land, right? Tenure, right? But here, I mean, you have people you have properties all over in this area that is being claimed.
It was only
right? Because
Only
look
recently they found
at
some people in. It's only recently they found some people in Brazil for the first time.
Yes,
They just
yes,
found
yes.
out then.
Yeah.
There are tribes in
look
Brazil that they
look at
just found out. So
look at
I think
Kramer's
the point I
estate.
just wanted to reinforce, and I will step back now, time I have to leave.
Yeah.
I
But
wanted to
but
hold on to the point for you that the consent order, when it was as the more they are looking at it, they believe that eventually, and this is not any definite answer, but as it becomes more and more difficult to apply, and as more and more of the Mayans begin to see the problem in the application, and they begin to shift towards, you don't have to disobey the rule. You're not going to disobey the consent order. But the consent order can be effectively nullified by the inability to apply with the consent of those people. So the more you fight for your rights, the more you can bring the Mayans over who are first undecided, meaning they're not sure where to go, bring them to go the way of individual rights. And in the
I
end,
think there are a lot of communities that are waiting, right,
that's right.
for an organization to make a stand so that they can come on board, right? I mean, you and I know that the people from the Toledo district are not like the people from the north who are very aggressive. We tend to we tend to sit back and just look at it as it unfolds, right? But in this instant now, where our properties are at question, I think now we are trying to understand, right? While majority of us don't understand, majority don't understand, right? And
Well,
whenever people comes around and try to disseminate some information, they are doing it with highfalutin words, right? They are doing it with highfalutin words, and people. I mean, the Constitution is in what, a secular language, right? Right, and a lot of people don't understand these things,
well,
these terms.
listen. You were suggesting that a majority of the Mayans are against the Mayan land rights. What what is it? Do you have a vocal minority? Is that is a few big mouths that are getting all the attention? What is the
and
problem?
and probably pressed on for the case. That certainly seemed to be the
Well,
case in many instances.
Mr. Tyndall, if I may also add, no one is discussing how many of these Maya are Belizeans. Is there a high percentage that possibly came from Guatemala or other Central American countries within the Maya villages?
well, let me
I don't mean to
be
put you on the spot.
honest, right? Yeah. Well, the ones who recently burned here, they're considered to be Belizeans, right? But majority, I mean, when the Mayas they flee Belize,
That's
right?
right.
When the Spaniards were colonizing, right? They left Belize and they went, right?
That's right.
They went in hiding, right? And it was not until the British came and colonized Belize, and when like Kramer's estate, right? Which lies on the border with Guatemala and Belize. When that came into existence, then the Mayas start to come back into the country in seek of jobs, right? Because back at that time they were over in Guatemala. And it was until that time then they started to come over to Kramer's estate, which I think we refer to as Dolores Estate or something to that extent, and start to work in the cacao fields, in the nutmeg field, and stuff. No.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm just I'm worried and wondering at the same time if the claim is based upon new arrivals into the area and looking at the population of the new arrivals and possibly people who may be illegal immigrants in Belize. That's my concern. And
Well,
also the Maya within Toledo, we know that they were Chol Maya. the Quechua Maya are from the highlands in Guatemala. They came in the late 1800s to Belize for the same Kramer estate. So it's a separate group of people.
Yeah,
And I think that's one of the things that MLA try to keep escaping, realizing that most of the Mayans that are there are second or third generation. They're not truly long sustaining indigenous occupants of Belize.
All right, 2 or 3 generations, not bad. But is there a distinction between
No,
the different Mayans and that?
no, you say that, but that other population group from Belize have long been there for much more generations than that. You see what I'm saying?
correct.
So they came three generations ago, but East Indians and other Spanish and other people were there generations ahead of that population group.
Is there a distinction between the different types of Mayans down there? Are they all together in their claim for this land, as far as you know, Mr. Tyndall?
Well, I think not necessarily. Not necessarily. I think it's unfair for me to make a comment on that. It might lead me into problem, right? But I believe that the Mayas, the Mopan Mayas, right? They were here quite some time. I mean, San Antonio, Pueblo Viejo, San Jose, right? They were here from quite some time ago, right? They are not, from what I'm understanding, from the little that I go around and speak with people, they are not in support of the claim, right? And it's more the ones that migrated from the higher lands in Guatemala that are supporting the claim. You're right. It just come, correct.
No, interesting.
Right.
Interesting scenario. Do you see it going somewhere positive soon, or is this going to linger and go on and on like most of our other problems are doing? What is your vision for this? What is your hope?
Well, I'm hoping that it would come to an end soon, but I don't think that would actually happen, for the mere fact that it's here in Belize. It's totally different, right? To address this type of claim when compared to Brazil, which has mass land and stuff, right? It's easier.
What would have to happen?
Not only did they have mass land, but they have isolation, where
they have isolation
groups,
correct.
Those groups were in particular areas that are not affecting other communities and other part of the country.
Other communities.
Yeah.
Correct. Like Mr. Joe rightly said a while ago.
One of my concern is the fact that our very legal and court system seems to be undermining the government in many ways, and particularly when I look at the judgment that the court had made against the government for the construction of that road, and is in fact sanctioning the government with a $6 million for breaking for building the road, when in fact I can't understand how the judges got to that point, when in fact the government is the one that is to make the delimitation and to mark out and to set aside whatever portion it needs to do community development, which is things like roads. So I can't understand how a court could behave in such a manner, and how judges could make that type of slanted decision that's against the interests of the nation. And that's troublesome to me.
Indeed.
I think bottom line, and I do admire Christina because she is very well spoken and she was able to take a matter to court. So it's a lesson for everyone. If in this fight, it's more than talk. It's more than complaining. We get stuff done by going to court. And that's what is needed right now. Our people need legal representation, period. This matter, go ahead, sorry.
First of all, I hear you, and Christina is again a Belizean. and you can admire her without agreeing with her, and I think
Of
that's
course.
important
Yes.
because
Yes.
I look at her also, and I admire her leadership skills. Or she's eloquent. She's able to express herself well, get her point across. And so this might be a part of it. What maybe the community, the third party, if you will, let me use that word sparingly, needs is a few voices that will be heard, that are strong enough to stand up and say, listen, we are here also. We're not going to go anywhere. And we're not going to move away so you can have your way. And I think that is what is needed more than anything here, no?
Yes.
I think that is what is indeed lacking at this point in time. We need a little bit of representation. We need some guidance,
You
right?
need
Because
passion. You
a
need
lot of
passion for
us,
your cause. Yeah.
right,
Go ahead.
Our people in Toledo, they also need Belizeans on board in Belize and in the diaspora.
Yes.
We can't expect them to fight this alone. We need to get on board and help them.
The only
Yes.
thing though, Deidre, if they don't understand it themselves, they will have a problem explaining it to the rest of us. And that might
And
be
that.
where the bigger problem lies.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
think
right,
what we have to do is get a good understanding of what we want, what we're willing to concede, and what we're not going to give up in any way. Which, of course, it seems you're not going to give up your land. It belongs to the people who are there, have titles to their land, and I believe they cannot be expected to give it up. But is there?
Well, that's what they expect. I don't think
Are the
you're
Mayans
saying that
expecting that? You think?
they
Are
are. They are expecting that the government will buy private land and remove and convert it to communal land and have those people removed from those private land. That
but
if you listen,
has the government
no, the
expressed
government haven't.
willingness to do that?
No, the government
I,
haven't. But
I
I'm
think
saying the
that
failure.
is what they expect, but that is not going to happen
Yeah,
because
I think the failure of the government to take on the role of being a partner in, or taking the lead, not only a partner, but taking the lead in creating the delimitation plans and the boundaries, and then also set a kind of expectation of what they were willing to make available for communal land has failed this whole process. And I think the government have done this because the Mayans in Toledo represent a significant voting bloc. And so far they are under the influence of their leadership. Many of the people, as have been mentioned, are not as literate, and therefore they rely a lot on their community leaders to direct them how to go about making decisions. And so that has been a burden, and it's one that the government is taking cue on. And until the rest of the population becomes active and become involved in the entire process, they're not going to get the full attention of the government. And so that is needed. And that needs to be broadcast not only in Toledo, but throughout the rest of the country, I believe, that needs to that the Toledo people need to speak to, so that they can involve themselves and reach out to their local area representative and let them know that there's a national interest in this issue and it's not just isolated to the Toledo district.
Let me ask you a loaded question, Mr. Tyndale. You have two political parties in Belize. Which one has been given more consideration to your cause, you think, to the cause of these third parties, quote unquote?
honestly, I believe neither of them
Yep.
because
You
you
kind
know,
of capping out, but who's down
I
there?
don't think they have. I think both government, from what I've seen, both government has failed this issue. It's not a one-party
yeah,
government that has failed
yeah.
this issue.
I think both governments have failed the issue. Has failed the issue. Both. I mean, when the previous government was in, they were very quiet on it, right? I mean, some decisions were made without even consultation with affected people in the area. That people with people that were going to be affected in the area, right? And then now we have a new government, and I believe that they are trying to be quiet because it's politics.
Mhm.
You know, they don't want to show either side because obviously they are going to lose votes, right?
Tell us what you know about this road that was built down there that the government has to pay them. I'm sorry, I missed on that one. What about the road that was built? A government is supposed to be paying them $6 million or something like that. What do you know about that?
Well, I don't know much about it. Just the little that I have read on it, right? As a matter of fact, I didn't even know that there was a case until after the hearing, right? When it became news on the different media houses and stuff. But
Is
that
it a
road has
road
been
that's
in
is it a road
that.
used by everybody? Everybody uses that road. Is it important to the
Well,
movement
I
of people?
mean, that is the road that is going to link the Pan American Highway,
Yeah.
right? Because all what we need right now is for that to link with the Guatemala side, and then we have a direct link for the Pan American Highway.
So but that is even more puzzling. If that was something that had to be there and serves a purpose, why would the Mayans sue the government and get the victory over it? Um,
Why would a court award the victory in Belize? That's the disgrace of the entire situation.
Right.
that one part of the puzzle that I can't fit together. I don't see it. I don't see
So, so I
why
never,
that happened. What
well,
was
if
the
I don't know the
rationale?
reason, what was the reason that the court gave? Why it made the decision?
They said that they violated the Mayan communal land rights by constructing the road without consulting with them, and therefore they need to reward them for the road because that's the amount of property they had consumed plus some damages.
And that was before the judgment,
Well,
before the consent order.
That was
from what
recent.
I
That's a
understand,
recent ruling.
yeah, from what I
That's a,
understand, what happened is that this case was already in existence because I think this claim started from way back. I believe it started from Julian Cho days, right, where he was fighting for this. And so when that portion of that road was built, that was just recently, right? I think somewhere around 2015 when there was a live issue on this claim, no? So hence the reason why they had the upper hand and to take the government to court, no? Because there was a live issue
But
as it relates to the.
that
I think it
adds
was I think it started in 2011, and the judgment was just probably a couple months ago.
But that adds to the whole theory of balkanization because if the government has to pay them for a road that was built on their land, which are the government to do it, which the government is supposed to be in charge of the whole land. There's something about that that's
Well,
not.
we have to be careful there now because that road was just resurfaced. It was not built. That road was in existence from way back,
Oh, the
right?
road
So
was
it
in.
just recently
It's not.
became
So
resurfaced.
it's not. So
So
it's not a new road.
And you have to
no,
pay
it's
them
not
for
a new
that now.
road.
Something
No, it's
wrong with
not a
that
new road. That that
Also,
that road is in existence from way back,
Okay,
yeah,
I didn't know
right?
that.
who owned the land title for the area?
Well, that
Le-
passed through several communities, right? That that road passed through several communities. I mean, it starts all the way from Dump, pass through the Mofredai, goes through San Antonio, goes through Santa Cruz, goes through Santa Elena, Pueblo Viejo, then Jalacte, right? So it passed through several Mayan communities.
and all those communities make use of that road.
All those communities make use of that road.
Well, it seems
Correct.
that
I think what is happening, I think what is happening here, Mr. Chairman,
uh,
I think that we are not sure as to what was the reason for the ruling.
about the
Because
road.
the chairman there right now is giving some facts about that road. This is not a road that was just built.
Yeah.
This road was serving those communities for years.
For
So I
years.
can't understand why a court would rule the way it seems to have been ruling. We need to know exactly what was the reason behind the ruling.
I don't know exactly why. I just know that the claim was that they had built on Mayan land, and the judge ruled on that basis that it was an illegal construction.
So I imagine what's left now is for them to put a toll on it and charge everybody else to run.
Yeah,
I think
and
I believe
you have
that
to get permission. You have to get
Yeah, it's a
permission to
ridiculous
visit.
situation. I can't see that. It's
That-
not making any sense. Much of this matter does not make sense to me.
Yeah,
that road was first cleared by the late Jimmy Lindo, right?
right.
Way back.
I remember when Jimmy
Right?
Lindo
I
did
think
that
from
road.
around 1950s, 1960s, thereabout.
It was
Right.
under
There was
PDP
no
government.
objection at that point. At that time, there was no question
There
about
was-
it. Nobody.
There was no question about it, right?
Yeah.
And then recently, when the government decided,
But did they expand did they expand the road into Mayan areas that it did not exist previously? Is what I'm getting at. Is that
no.
the case?
All what
Okay.
they did was follow the same existing road and did a
surface
resurfacing
it.
to it. Right. That's all what they did. So
Then
the
how could
government did not-
how could our court be so misguided then?
Well, I think we are looking at some judge that doesn't even have idea at the area, right?
Which kind of not say much about our justice system, huh? But somebody
Right.
was suggesting that Greg, you're right that both parties seem to have dropped the ball on this one. So
But
just
Mr.
a cavalier attitude, as if well, I mean, get the people in when they want thing done, no?
No, but if we are sure that a ruling had gone against the government for building a road and what is communal land, a road that was built many years ago,
Right.
to me, what I think is deluding us is that we do not know the real reason for the judgment. Because if you give them 6 million, who got the 6 million? What was the 6 million for? If the
Exactly.
government acquire land under the Constitution, the government can acquire private land if it's for a public purpose, but it
Yes.
must compensate the owner.
Yes. Well, that's what they're looking for. That's the
So
point.
therefore, they
It's
could have
eminent
only gone to the
domain.
government and sue the government if the land belonged to them. Then the government can say, well, all right, we will compensate you. But once they compensate, whosoever they compensated, which we don't even know, is then the land belongs to the government. The
Yeah.
road.
No, that's not the argument. The
So what's
point
the
is
argument?
no, the point is that probably they're suing the government. The government is claiming the land under eminent domain, and they're saying
Under what?
this
What
land
sorry,
eminent domain.
imminent.
Yeah, eminent domain,
What's that?
which is the same process of taking private land for public use. It's the same
Correct.
principle.
Imminent. I know.
Yeah. That's how we call it here. I don't know how constitutionally in Belize is referred to, but it's the same process of taking private land for public use, where you must compensate the landowners for it. But
But
my
who are the
point
landowners?
is,
From,
well,
Who are the
they're
landowners?
the
from my
landowners
knowledge,
are
from
claiming
my knowledge,
themselves to be the Mayan community MLA. They're
Yeah,
the
but
ones. They're saying the land is communal land. That's the
Is that
that's the
verified
issue.
through the lands department, or is it asserted that
Well,
area
that's
belongs?
what I'm saying.
Okay.
The failure of the judge to kind of vet this truly and get it has been the issue. I haven't seen this case as yet in document. I just heard about it and read about it a little bit. I haven't seen the case ruling and the documents that were provided as part of it. But that clearly seems to be the case. And I even heard the member in parliament for the indigenous, Ms. Balderrama, said that the government was going to be appealing this case. So I expect government to stand strong and make a defense of it, and to at this time present proper defense so that we don't get ourselves caught up again.
Carl, do you see? Go ahead.
I don't know if the government can appeal it, because from what I understand, that was That was a ruling probably about a year or 2 years ago,
So the
right? Because
time limit has gone.
No, I think
yeah,
it's a more recent. I think it's a more recent ruling because I heard Representative Balderrama said they were going to appeal it.
But they only have 21 days to do that, Mr.
it's
Morrison.
Is that
available.
all?
Yeah,
The
21
hearing,
days.
the hearing is available on the internet. You can
Oh, it
easily
is.
search for it and
Okay.
print it, right?
Okay. I will look
It's
for it.
something that is already ruled on.
Mr.
Anybody know
Tyndall,
the name of the case? Anybody can help with the name of the case?
government
Um,
versus Mayan people.
No,
Something
I
like
yeah.
that,
spoke
right?
to, actually I spoke to
Well,
2 lawyers, and none of them seem to know about the case.
Wow.
I was trying to find it myself because I don't
Yeah.
know. First time
I
I'm hearing about it on the show. It's on
Yeah.
the show I
yeah,
heard it.
I will look for it and then forward it to
Yeah.
you guys.
Place it in the
I
link. Place it
stumbled
in the link.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I stumbled across it when I was doing my research, and I stumbled across a lot of cases. Right, an interesting case was one between the commissioner, the indigenous commissioner, and a Caucasian couple. Right, where he was claiming a piece of land. Right, and he went through the process and lost his case. Right, he first used the Constitution and he lost. Then he went and used the Maya land claim, and he lost the case, right? So that was when I stumbled across all of these cases, no?
Are you guys coming together more? Is there hope in your mind that um, your case will get stronger? Your people will be more cohesive in their fight against what you obviously believe to be wrong.
Well, I do believe that we are getting strong. We are getting strong, and sooner than later, I think we will have a voice, right? And probably, we will probably have a representation at the different hearings as it relates to the case.
When Deidre gets over a cold, you'll have a voice for sure.
Yeah, I must say that I am very impressed with many people in Toledo, even women. There's some strong advocates in Toledo, and it just makes me want to do and give whatever I can. I don't know everything. I'm not a legal expert, but I'm on board to help.
And they don't look like they're gonna give up anytime soon, correct?
Oh no, no.
Wonderful. Yeah. I wish the very best for the third party. Let me say that, and I really don't know what more we can say because that's how you're described in the legal proceedings, right? But the fourth party now again are the ones that will have to come on board and give you the support. The rest of the country have to understand what is going on. That might be one of the first things you have to do is to get the facts of the matter out there into the general public so that they know what is
And
going on and then yeah, go ahead.
and that is where we have a problem because the fourth party, they are not interested because they
I
are
don't
not
think
being
so, you know.
appointed.
Well,
No, I
I
don't
don't
think
know. I
so.
don't
I
know
don't
if
think
you can
so.
say
I
that
don't think so. I don't think
because
so.
well, we're here. We're here, and we're part of that estate, and we are certainly interested. I think there are other people
Well,
who are interested.
I think they like you guys in even in PG were not aware of the extent of this and where it would
right.
go. And as we look at the rulings of the court, we realize we could have trouble because our court is not, I would say, not being very thoughtful on some of these things in thinking in a nationalistic national interest. They are making ad hoc ruling and decisions, and I think that's the problem we have, and that is garnering the attention of a lot of people.
Uh,
I work in Belmopan, and so I'm in Belmopan on a weekly basis. And when I speak to people out there, I mean they're not even aware
Yeah,
of
yeah.
what is happening in the area, right?
So
So
it needs
a
it
lot
needs
of
an
people
educational
outside of
process.
yes, a lot of people outside of Toledo district are not really aware of the situation,
And
right?
if it
le-
happens in Toledo, it could happen in other places too. So that's something
Definitely,
to be aware of
right.
because the claim is extending all the way into Stan Creek, Barranco, and some other areas where there are some communities. So believe me, if they're successful in one area, they're going to make this an agenda. And if it ends up being a land grab that gives them some level of power, those powerful people will not stop.
Let us not.
Well, what we can say for sure, Mr. Chairman, is that StreamYard, evidently to me, has given the broadest exposure to this case.
Yes.
Yeah, I have
Smoke.
never heard before, and it enough for our national television.
Well, that's what I'm getting
Any
ready to
discussion
say.
about this case, which is a very serious matter.
We're talking about the third party and fourth party. How about the fourth estate? Has the media given the necessary publicity to this situation that you think it warrants? It seems that one very serious thing that could blow out of proportion.
That's right.
It could get to the point where it could lead to bloodshed.
Honestly,
we're hoping
honestly and truthfully, I was not even concerned of this claim, right? Because all along, the dump settlement was not, from what I understand, was not in the claim. So I was not concerned until recently when the guys from Emery Grove reached out to me, right? And then I started.
Wait a minute. Yeah. My side of the boat might also be sinking. The fact is that if they're allowed to have their way, the Mayans who are reaching for this down south, everybody apparently will be affected, even people in the other parts of the country. So I think we all...
because Mr. Akoi said it. It said our resource-rich district is the PG district. And therefore, that resource need to be equitably available to all Belizeans for the development of the entire country of Belize.
That's right. It's all our patrimony.
When it all started out, it was roughly about 20-something communities. Now it is 41 communities that fall within the claim. And now when you look at it, dump falls within the claim. Before this, we could have go to the lands department and get transactions carried out. But now we can no longer go to the lands department. People from the dump area can no longer go to the lands department and get any transaction carried out because
I understand most of PG people cannot get land transactions.
That's important. That's an important aspect of this thing that we don't speak about enough. Is that a fact that you cannot now, if you live in certain areas, get any land transfer? Like, say, for instance, you want to sell your piece of land. You can't do that then.
That's different. That's different.
You can't,
I think it's... you can't sell your land?
You can't do that. You can't do anything at this point in time. Your hands are actually tied.
So you cannot sell property?
As a matter of fact, we try to pay our land tax and we can't pay our land tax. They don't accept our payment.
That I know. But you cannot have private land transaction, you're telling me also?
Well, from what I understand, no, because it falls within the claim.
I see.
Right? It falls within the claim. And the court hearing said it, that nothing can happen right now within this area. Right? Until the matter is being resolved.
Yeah. And resolve means that the government and the Mayans come together and determine what is communal land and what isn't. Is that it? That's how you get it? Is that it?
I believe that is it until they have a settlement on the claim, no?
And right now, how does it look? I mean, it looks like the Mayans are winning, doesn't it?
Well, they have good representation. They have someone that that is very articulative, right, and representing them while they are standing behind. I don't know how much of them do understand.
Yeah, and we don't know how much financial support they're receiving throughout the years.
Right.
Financial and technical and legal support, because they have a whole university crew that provides them legal advice. And talk about a little bit about that, Deetra, if you will.
I don't have the information. Oh, okay. And I don't like hearsay. I like facts.
Okay.
But and also, Belize is different than the U.S. If this was going on in the U.S., there's transparency. There's accountability where people have to show where money is coming from. That doesn't exist in Belize, and it's very frustrating. And that's how people get away with stuff. We don't know who's being paid under the table.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that's altogether fair, because many times it happens in the U.S. the same way too. You don't know who's being paid under the table there either. So
it's more harder out here because we get audits. People's bank accounts can get audits. Wire transfers can be monitored. Belize is, in my opinion, it's easier for the corruption to happen. And that's why it keeps happening, because there is no accountability or transparency.
Well, Joe, what do you think?
Who was that big judge at the Supreme Court?
Which one out here?
That was being given favors by that wealthy rich billionaire.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
that does happen.
it does, but we know about it, right?
Yeah.
We know about it. Yep.
We got to know about it because somebody blew the whistle now.
Yep.
And that's what we need, whistleblowers. But we certainly need more information coming out. You need more publicity to the case, Tyndall. Most people are suggesting that you should not give up. A number of people have stood up and said they believe that you should keep fighting and stay strong. Keep looking for that voice. Use the Facebook,
Right.
somebody said. Keep putting up posts, keep throwing things out there. Don't even worry if it seems that it's getting monotonous and too abundant. Throw it out there. They say if you throw enough mud against the wall, some will stick. Much will fall out, but some will stick on there. So you need to keep the case alive. Keep it fresh in everybody's mind. Let them know that this is happening. We cannot just forget it and think it's going to go away, because it's apparently not going away.
I think that is the direction that we are now heading. Now that we are trying to understand the case more, right? And that is the direction where we are trying to engage people and try to see if we can educate them to a certain extent so that they can better understand the issue at hand, right? Because, like I said, a lot don't understand, right?
Well, you have a formidable weapon in your corner, sitting above you there, Deidre. Deidre is gonna make sure we will do what we can, at least maybe once a month. We certainly will talk about it, but try to bring somebody on every so often. If you guys ever come up with a representative that will stand for you, we will be happy to give them some airtime to express their gripes. No.
I'm pleading with the viewers right now. We just had almost a 2-hour conversation about the matter. Please reach out as to how you can help. You can message me directly, or Mr. Tyndall, or Gregory Morrison, part of Sea Smoke. Put forth the effort is what I'm saying, because we do need help.
Deidre, you have an email address?
I do have an email address. I would prefer a message through Facebook Messenger.
Okay, good.
I use my email for business purposes.
All right, so they can find you on Facebook Messenger. Just look for Deidre Gillett. Mr. Tyndall, are you on there too also?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, so they can always find me on Facebook Messenger as well under Carl Tyndall. Tyndall. Right. So right. So I mean, once you're interested and willing to assist us, that is what we are clamoring for. We want some assistance. We want a little bit of guidance, because there are a few of us that kind of understand what is taking place and want to let our voices be heard.
Well,
we're strong in numbers. We are strong in numbers and united. Yes.
In parting, I would like to say, Mr. Tyndall, to me tonight, you have manifested some of what I consider to be some of the very salient characteristics for leadership. I think you should take up the leadership of that cause.
Pick up the mantle and move on. Yeah.
I think that's my advice to you.
Yeah. I think
you
more important,
knowledge of it and a commitment.
Most important is awareness. We need to keep people aware of what is going on. If we hear of something going on in the courts that look a bit fishy, let's blow it out. blow up Facebook with that. We have to stay aware, which is the most important work at hand. And after that, then we move and see what we can do, because I don't think, for the sake of Belize, we cannot allow balkanization to occur. We cannot allow, somebody was suggesting earlier that maybe Spanish Lookout is a form of balkanization. And there's some interesting aspects of that situation there that needs to be looked at, and maybe we'll do that at some point. But we'll certainly stay focused on this Toledo issue and make sure that you guys are not taken advantage of. We'll do
I wanted to say that our government does respond to the people. We saw the Prime Minister return from a vacation trip.
Did he return, Joe? I don't know. Somebody,
yes, he did.
He came back.
He returned. The Prime Minister returned from a trip that, when it became known that he was on vacation enjoying a papal visit, and that there was trouble in the homeland with the cane farmers, he was compelled to return. So I think that if we keep the pressure on and we keep moving in the direction that informs the people and get them involved, the government will be responsive to the cause.
There is hope.
Yes.
I would like to encourage the country of Belize, though. I mean, we have another hearing on the 15th of January.
Yes.
Right, and it is always live. It is always live.
Yes.
Right. So I encourage them to listen, to to view the hearing and try to understand what is taking place. Right.
Let's see if we can get-
I think you should share the link. The last time I looked at it, and we should make the link available to people throughout the country, Belize, and in the diaspora, so that they can be involved and understanding the process of what's going on, because it impacts us all.
CY might be able to stream it live for us, right? And we can all look at it.
Yeah,
Guys,
it's usually like around in the morning, like around 9:30 or something like that.
Well, we can always put a time delay on that and run it later on in the evening or something. But you can stream StreamYard any time of the day too, so you can stream that at any point. It might be able to stream it live once we know and we can tune in. Guys, it's been fun. It's been informative. It's been progressive, and we want to stay on top of this and see what we can do to help to bring your case to the public view.
We lost Mr. Edwards for most of the show. We didn't.
Yeah, he was in and out, but he was able to put some punch in. Guys, good night. Thank you. Have a happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year as well. Thanks once again for the invitation. I really enjoyed the show, right? And I always look forward to make my contribution as well.
Blessings, everybody.
Thank you.
Right. Okay.
From nation after Rastabira. Rastabira is the people's champion. I realize fat man Rastabira maintain that just so we function. That's a plan, organic conception. Rastabira moving like an army of one. People's champion. I realize fat man Rastabira maintain that just so we function. That's a plan, organic conception. Rastabira moving like an army of one. Major props to Belly King. Thanks to all the love when we get from love and friend more. But this is the warning to the cheap pretender. You get in the river with me if you can't swim. Next year I'm back again. This time we'll swim. All the nation prize including the bull reporting. It's amazing when the bell ring. From a level no, they try to hang on like static green. That's the way the people's champion. I realize fat man Rastabira maintain that just so we function. That's a plan, organic conception. Rastabira moving like an army of one. Good champion. I realize fat man Rastabira maintain that just so we function. That's a plan, organic conception. Rastabira moving like an army of one. Gosh. Wine. To the left, to the left, to the right, to the right, to the left, to the left, to the right, to the right. No, jump fire, jump fire, jump fire, jump fire, jump fire, jump fire, jump fire. If you don't believe it, take a picture and freeze it. Alone against room in a can. Watch your steering, maneuver and balance it. One eye on the falls and still navigate it. When we start singing, we no one will lick. We use our draw the people, they watch me like Netflix. So they can wait and please sit, back and who believes it. Now a real Rastabira here in this shit. Who no serious like them virus. Nothing you can do, fi catch us up. We know the quarry, we know the force.